whether you're just starting in this business or whether you have decades and decades of experience, it doesn't matter, like whoever is listening now, right? You might be listening and say, well, I'm just starting out, right? I just got certified. I just got trained. So this doesn't apply to me. Well, no, because this is fundamental and it applies to everyone. But okay, if you just got certified, maybe you're not going to be like charging the highest price in the market. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if you are able to understand this whole fundamental thing about your genius, your offer, and where you're headed, you might have this vision of like, okay, well, in 3 or 5 years, that's where I want to be. And I want to be charging this much. And I want to be known for being the best in the world for this. Mm-hmm. And I think we so underestimate how much we can achieve in like 5 years. And I think Bill Gates said that. We overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in 5 years.
Welcome to another episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar Cumberbatch of OmarCumberbatch.com. As always, really appreciate you joining in today, learning about new and good stuff in the health coach space. And that health coach space sometimes can feel quite saturated. So it's really interesting how sometimes my guests align with what I'm going through just in my business approach and what I'm trying to accomplish. And today's guest was really cool because, as you know, I released my podcasting course, and I was really getting a lot of questions regarding, hey, what's so different about your podcast course compared to all the other podcast course that are out there? And I felt like, yeah, I definitely think that I did make that separation between why I should have my course ahead in that respect. And I really had to start really explaining that. So really cool to have today's guest, Nida Leardprasopsuk, to come on the show and kind of discuss that. How can we become outliers? How can we use what our unique existence is, just, who we are, that really separates what we are presenting in the world. And that's what differentiates us as well. She also is just a master of coming up with ideations and ideas that really will help come up with differentiation factors so that we could be one of those things people look to specifically say, hey, you know what, I want to go with them because that really relates to me. And the ideas that she comes up are really cool. And she's a really, really amazing person when it comes to that creativity. So really excited to share her. She is the author of the 1 to Millions Entrepreneur, and she's the host of the Nida Leard Podcast. And as always, I always say this, so I can continuously get great guests like Nida, please keep continuously leaving those ratings and reviews on iTunes because it goes a long, long way. So thank you for joining in. Let's jump into the show. Hey, Nida, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Omar. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. I am so excited to have you because my tribe has a misconception about the market, right? So we as health coaches tend to think that this market is saturated. We have so many health coaches, and I have tons of reasons to argue that that is not the case. However, let's play the game with us and our psyche about this and just pretend that that is the case and it's a saturated market. The reason I have you on the show is because you are the master of differentiating yourself in saturated markets and markets overall. So I'm really excited to have you on the show to discuss this topic. And let's get to know you a little bit better. So if you could tell us about yourself and what made you kind of stand out in your field.
Yeah, well, where do I start? I actually started my career after I finished my master's in business. I went to Australia and then I came back to where I am now, which is in Bangkok, Thailand, but I work with clients around the world. I started my career in Fortune 500 companies like L'Oreal, Unilever, working in product management and brand management, which is marketing. And the role is to take care of the whole brand, the marketing, the products, everything. Then I spent a few years doing that. And then I I started my own business, which was pretty much the same at the time that I had my little boy, so my son. And I just like corporate job was not for me for various reasons, which I found out later why. I think it was because my personality type and the fact that I'm just like a rule breaker and I'm rebellious and I'm just not someone that's going to stick to the status quo or how like things have been done. Because I'm always challenging the rules and like, why don't we do it the better way? Why isn't someone we have like unproductive hours and hours doing meetings, for example. That's just one example, right? Like, why don't we find a better way? So I'm always like better way with everything. And so just following process and rules and not being able to use my strengths, which is ideation and creating new ideas and solutions to problems and things like that. I was just not getting to use that as much as I wanted in the corporate world. So I started several businesses growing up, I would say, but my first serious business was a child development center. So I was working with kids, and that was the point where I found out that I actually loved psychology. And I had this belief that I was born for this. But at the same time, I felt that with my personality and many factors, I wasn't someone that wanted to work in a hospital with patients, So at that time, I continued my work with the children and the parents with my own business. And I think the thing that I loved the most was consulting with the parents and helping them understand how to raise kids so that they would have like resilience and, a healthy emotional intelligence and self-esteem and all that. And that gradually transitioned into kind of doing the same thing, but with adults. And so I got into like all the coaching and all the modalities and NLP. I got certified as an NLP trainer in neuro linguistics programming, which is like what Tony Robbins actually started with. And I got certified in like lots of things, executive coaching, relationship coaching. And I was pretty much in a place where I wanted to do all these things, So I knew I had to niche down, right? So I started with relationship coaching, actually, because that was something I love to do. And then I have two businesses at the moment. So one of it is relationship coaching, which I call lifetime relationship coaching, and matchmaking for billionaires. So that's like a separate topic we could talk about another day. But I think we're here to talk about your audience, I think, with business coaching. So the other business is business coaching. And a big part of the business coaching is personal development. I would say 70%, 80% is about your self-identity and how you perceive yourself. And then the 20, 30% is about the strategy. And so I think that's why I'm so passionate about this, because it's like where I have the background in business and then I have the background in psychology as well. So I'm doing a PhD in psychology at the moment. And a lot of my intensive and training and work the past 15 years has been in the field of psychology. So I feel like it's a great place. It's a great business to integrate the business part, the business world, the entrepreneur world, and the psychology part, right? And that's kind of a short way to explain where I'm at the moment and what I do. And like you said, what I help my clients do is differentiate themselves and get clarity on what are their geniuses, what are their key strengths, and how would they use that in their business, in their offers, and how would they package that and offer those geniuses to their clients in a world where everybody can call themselves an entrepreneur or a coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's like, is that short? But that's a short way to explain what I'm doing.
You actually have me speechless because you're doing a lot. I guess we could have a show about the billionaire matchmaker just by itself. And if you know any billionaires who want to match up with a married guy with twins, let me know. I'm sure my wife will not care. So hook a brother up. So anyway, my question I think that I really wanted to get into specifically is just, I'm watching your website. I'm just following up on a lot of stuff you do. And there's a term that I really appreciate because I I I read a book by Malcolm Gladwell many years ago about the concept of an outlier. Can you talk about what that is and how can a health coach kind of to get in a position where they may be able to call themselves an outlier?
Yeah. Well, it depends on, whose definition it is, right? In the research world and statistics, statistics wise, an outlier is like, when you're gathering all this data, and then the outlier data is like this data that just like stands out from the rest of the group. And so it's almost like an anomaly or something like that, like, well, what's going on with this person here, when we're collecting all this data and everybody's like in the middle, and then there's someone that's like, wow, they're way far away from the we call it like normal distribution. So that's like, say for example, we're measuring something like a characteristic or something, and then this person just stands out, like their number is very different from the rest of the normal population. So that's the outlier. So it's similar to what I mean when I use the word outlier. I feel like I've always been an outlier. Like I've always been different from people. And I felt like I don't get people, people don't get me, right? When I was young. Of course, now I'm in the field of psychology and coaching. Now I understand why I felt that way, right?
Right.
So I enjoy actually working with outliers because I relate to them. I totally get them. And somebody that's maybe didn't have that experience of growing up like that, or feeling that you're different, or you're an outcast and stuff like that, might not relate to me as well as someone that is an outlier, but I don't just, I work mainly with outliers or people that are, they're exceptional at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like decades and decades of experience, or they dive deeply into their expertise, and they are someone that wants to be the best. They want to go for the gold medal. Mm-hmm. And so I specialize in working with these clients because this is what I went through, and I feel like this is my sweet spot. This is where like I could go for other niches and other, even niches in the coaching or business coaching segment. But it took like a lot of contemplating and introspection and a whole process, which it's the same process that I use with my clients to help them do what I've been able to do for my business as well. Mm-hmm. And it involves like the genius. It involves, how are you an outlier? How are you different from other people in that market segment or in that market? And then there's many complex like elements that goes into that. It sounds simple when I try to explain it or when I write articles about it, but there's research. There's like digging for the insights with their clients, like my clients. There's a whole process of going in and interviewing them, deep dive style interview, not just like, what do you like about this business, or what could be better? Not those type of questions, but we want to get into the psychology of like what's going on here, Mm-hmm. And I like to call myself like I'm the truth teller. So a lot of my clients, sometimes they don't want to listen to what I have to tell them. But like after we've gathered all this data and research and all that, and this is what we found out, and we have, as entrepreneurs or like as coaching clients or whatever, we have this blind spot, right? There's stuff that we don't know about ourselves. And it's the same thing with business. Mm-hmm. So we all want to talk about what's really going well with our business. Like, this is my beautiful, I'll use this metaphor, like this is my beautiful living room, right? But we don't want to talk about the leaking, the water leaking into our basement, or like mm-hmm. stuff that's not going so well, Yeah. And a lot of times we don't know about it. We're just like totally, we're not aware about it, because if you go and you talk to your clients, they don't want to ruin that relationship with you, right? They don't want to break that rapport, that relationship that your clients have with you. So they're not going to tell you like 100% of the truth. And the other part is they don't even know what the problem is. Sometimes they might not know like what's going on for me, what's the challenge here, like what could be better, or like what am I struggling with. A lot of the times, like, know the symptoms, but you don't know the actual root cause. And that's where I go in, I kind of poke holes everywhere. And I'm like, there's a problem here and here and here and here. And I would say a lot of the time it goes back to the fundamental of your business, because the message out there in the mainstream market and all those courses out there is like, a lot of it is talking about like, well, you have to go live on camera, or you have to do more like Facebook ads, or you have to do this and that, right? And those things are great, but that's not the beginning of it. That's not the fundamental of your business. You have to have, especially I talk about a lot about crafting like a high end offer, like a premium, ultra premium offer. So the goal is to market to an affluent or high paying market where they have the money to spend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because the clients that I work with, like they have spent decades or whatever, like doing what they're doing, and they're really great at it. So of course they should be able to sell it at, let's say, like the highest price in market, because they deserve that. And so whether you're just starting in this business or whether you have decades and decades of experience, it doesn't matter, like whoever is listening now, right? You might be listening and say, well, I'm just starting out, right? I just got certified. I just got trained, right? So this doesn't apply to me. Well, no, because this is fundamental and it applies to everyone. But okay, if you just got certified, maybe you're not going to be charging the highest price in the market.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if you are able to understand this whole fundamental thing about your genius, your offer, and where you're headed, you might have this vision of like, okay, well, in 3 or 5 years, that's where I want to be. And I want to be charging this much. And I want to be known for being the best in the world for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we so underestimate how much we can achieve in 5 years. And I think Bill Gates said that. We overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in 5 years or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. That's what he said. And that's completely true. So I love to work with people long-term. Clients usually stay with me for many, many years. And because like, even with a 1-year coaching program, that's just like, it's not enough, to get where clients want to be. And if there's growth with the coaching, they want to keep going. They want to keep growing. And I think I'm going into like so many questions. So maybe I'll pause.
No,
and
yeah,
check in where you're at. And like, yeah.
No, yeah, it's great. I'm flowing with you. So, I definitely have some questions that you are opening up the door for, because again, like the coaches who I'm listening, who are listening currently, probably are in that space where they are just starting out. So, do you think it's really the first step is really to find out what your genius is before you create a message to be an outlier?
I think when you're starting, it's a journey. So the answer might not come fast. There's a journey that you need to go through. And for some people, it's faster than others, like that you actually find your answer, like, oh, I was born for this, But I think like things that people should really introspect and, think about, and maybe like journal and write. And I do a lot of writing, and I analyze myself and kind of like, okay, what's going on for me and what's working, what's not, what are my key strengths? And then maybe you can ask other people as well. But say, for example, someone in the health coaching space, and you just got certified, and now you like, what's next? I would say, first of all, you want to look at a couple of things. What are you most passionate about? Like within the health coaching, there's so much, right? There's like so many methods and techniques. And then the other part about the passion piece is like, who do you love working with the most? Is it like pregnant women? Is it people that already just have their baby and they're out of shape and they want to get, or are they like patients that have a specific health problem, or maybe they have diabetes or something like that, right? There's so many like sub niches, super sub niches within the health coaching market. There's like, if you go in and dig in, there's just so many sub segments there. Mm-hmm. So you want to ask, first of all, what are you most passionate about? Like, do you have a specific, maybe it's your background, maybe you had health problems or something like that, right? Or maybe you've helped a couple of clients, you've worked with some clients already, and you feel like, okay, I'm most passionate about working with people with this background, or they have this kind of story, And then so you want to kind of like notice and observe yourself when you're working with clients, or you're starting to get, it's almost like you're looking at your own story, and you're looking at the experience as you go and you get more clients, you find more clients. Like it's kind of like you're observing yourself like, okay, what do I enjoy the most? And what do I not so much enjoy? It's about observing yourself and your experience. So
Mhm.
that's kind of like the passion piece. And I believe that passion is very important, especially in the business world. It's not easy, right? So in order for you to have that drive to go through all those obstacles and when things are not working, in order for you to keep going and continuing and just not quitting, you really have to have passion. You really want to help these, like as a coach, you really want to help these people, these clients, right?
Mhm.
And then you want to look at, okay, so this is like you're passionate about this. What maybe some people are passionate about several things, and that's very common, for people to at least people that I work with are multi-passionate or multi-potentially as they call them.
Mhm.
So you have the potential to be in many niches and you could have the genius and the skills to be many things, right? And I think it's common these days. You can be a health coach and you can be an author and you can be opening a restaurant or like so many things, right?
Mhm.
And so it's about like observing yourself. So that's the passion piece. And then there's the market piece where you have to look at the market. You want to take a look at, okay, do the people that you want to work with, do they have the money to pay you?
Mhm.
And that's the market piece. And is there enough people in that market space? Is there enough? Is it a big enough market for you to be in that market for several years? Maybe in the future you want to shift to other markets, but at least for now. And I think that's the two key pieces. And then the third one is your genius, right? What are the key strengths that you have? So I'll go back to my own example. I think I mentioned before our interview here that my number one strength is ideation. So it's literally about creativity. And creativity isn't always just about art. It's about being creative in creating better, like innovative solutions for problems. To me, that's what I mean when I say creativity. So it's actually ideation. And so it makes sense for me to be doing what I'm doing, right? Like helping clients come up with innovative offers, helping them reinvent their business, and helping them come up with these ideas that no one else has kind of thought about that will solve the clients problems better than anyone else. So that makes total sense. That kind of aligns with my key strength, right?
Yeah, because that
So
helps with the saturation. At the end of the day,
yeah,
someone like myself who, specializes in, say, weight loss,
yeah.
there's many weight loss coaches out there. So what is the solution particularly that makes you stand out from that? And that's the part of the ideation process that you highlight with your clients.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of people actually they know that they want to create like an amazing offer that's very unique and innovative, but I find like a lot of people actually struggle with that. And that's the reason is because their key strengths are in other areas. And so that's just to give the listeners like an example. So my key strength was ideation. So I help people with ideas and how to differentiate their business and how to come up with like this unheard of kind of offer that nobody has thought of before, right? So that makes sense. So now everybody just has to go back and think about, well, what is my genius? And how does that genius fit with the group of people I want to work with, the niche that I want to choose? And do they have the money to pay me? That sounds simple, but it is a journey. So it is a journey because you can't just go and read a book and then come up with the answer. But you have to explore. You have to like maybe start to try working with various types of clients, different backgrounds, different kind of health problems. Or if you already have something in mind, like, oh, I love working with people that, X, Y, and Z. Just start there. And the thing I want to say is like, don't try to find the ultimate answer because there's no ultimate answer. Like I'd say like in 5 years maybe I'm not doing this anymore because we grow all the time. We're growing, and then one day we might find that because of the growth that I've grown, I've progressed, and now I want to work with a different group of people.
Yes.
So I think like having a big vision is super important to not play small, even though you're just starting, and observing and introspecting about all these pieces that I've talked about, and looking out in the market and like usually what my clients go through is like, yeah, I don't see anybody doing what I'm doing, not the way that I'm doing it. Maybe there's a specific methodology or way that they do it, but most people they're not consciously aware of how is it different, the way that they're doing it. How is it different from like other people in that industry? Until we break down the steps, we break down like, what exactly did you do with your clients? How did you do this? How did you do that? And it's especially fun when I'm working with someone where they're in an industry that I know nothing about, because then I ask all these like silly questions, but that's how like we break it down. That's like, oh, so this is how you did it, but how did you do this and that? And like, then tell me the steps, the 100 steps, how you got a client from here to here. And then there's so many details and golden nuggets and stuff in there that they weren't aware of, because they were like, oh, well, I just did this thing. I just got the results for them. I don't know how, It was very intuitive for them because they've been doing it. They've gathered all this experience throughout the years. So I think even if when you're just starting in this career, being a health coach, you're not just really just starting. You're not just starting now, because there's so much experience that you've gathered before becoming a coach. You want to look at your background in, what the past 10, 20 years, what have you been doing as well? Maybe your background was in corporate world, then maybe you'll relate more to like executives that have back problems or something like that, So a lot of what has happened in your life also plays a part in the passion piece as well, and into the market that will relate to you as well. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I definitely agree with that, because I think a lot of us who have overcome our own challenges, and maybe the reason that we were inspired to be health coaches to begin with, we kind of often neglect and don't think it's as important as it is. And we don't really know how to break it down and utilize it to our advantage. But that's for sure. So that definitely resonates with me. So I think one of the questions that I had, there was 2 points that you brought up in the last segment, but I think it's safe to say, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, is that it's kind of hard for, I think, health coaches in the beginning to come up with an original point of view. I think that we kind of, again, like neglect what we've been through and think that we almost give our power to the quote unquote experts in the field and try to mimic that. Is that a mistake?
Well, I don't really see things in black and white, right? So I'm always like, even if I have a conviction for something, there's always, I think like a researcher, right? So I think like as PhD students, we're trained to like not see things, and this is maybe not the complete truth. Is there an exception to this, or is there like, could this be true? Could this be false? Even a research that has been proven true, we challenge it. Then the next generation of researchers will go in and like, well, is this true? Did you do the research correctly? What are some things that might not be true? So it's always about challenging the truth and challenging. There are lots of things that happen like in the medical world, like beliefs that we used to have. And today it's not true anymore. Or there's some sort of research that said like counter argued like how these researches were not true, how these facts that we thought were facts are not actually facts, and things like that. So I think like it's not completely like a mistake to believe like the frameworks or the teachings of like what experts say, but I think it's about the thinking process that we should have, not to like go and believe everything that everybody says, like not to like, watch the TV and say like, well, everything that is said on the TV is like true, or on the media is true, right? So I think it's about like, even though we're listening to experts, we listen, then we kind of research, do our kind of mini research, and like, is this true? Do you believe these things, these facts, these frameworks, these methodologies? And what do you not believe about it? And do you have like from your own experience some evidence that this is not true, or this might not work so well, and maybe you have a better methodology of solving this problem? So I don't know whether I answered your question, but I feel like it's not so much about like following the experts or not, but it's about like, what do you believe? And from your experience, is this true? And how could you do it better?
No,
Like,
I think it's very
yeah,
helpful because, like you said, I think again we sometimes tend to rely on what the quote unquote experts are and not saying what, like you said, do the research. What do we believe? And then taking that part of it and bring it out into our practice, then that can help us differentiate ourselves from the pack as well.
yeah. And, a lot of time experts are wrong. Like they're not completely 100% right all the time. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, so I feel just because someone is an expert doesn't mean you have to believe everything they say and follow like everything they do and the, methodology or whatever. I always love like challenging things and people and thoughts and beliefs and stuff like that and methodologies. And like, I'm always asking the question, how do we do it better? Like I'm always asking these questions to my clients, like, how do we do it better? And how do you do it better than you did it yesterday? So like this was the methodology that was so amazing that you've used this for decades or whatever. But like, how do we upgrade it? How do we make it better? Because innovation, like a business that does not innovate will eventually die. Even if you have the best, whatever, offer, thing, methodology, framework today, eventually someone's going to come up with something better. That's just how we evolve, right?
Right.
So if you just stay where you are today, you don't innovate, that business is one day going to die. That's how it happens.
Oh yeah.
So you need to constantly innovate. And that means taking a look at what you're doing and how do you make it better? How do you innovate? How do you even come up with an idea that you've never been able to think about, maybe to solve the same problem, whatever problem you're solving for your client? But if you stick, and when we're saying like, how do we do it better? It's not about like small improvements, right? Small improvements are great too. And, perfecting your methodology or whatever you do is great. But we also want to look at how do we totally, completely innovate. And when we say completely innovate, that means like coming up with something, a product or a service that will solve your client's problem, or even maybe a bigger problem or a different problem than you solved before, but in a unique way, in a different way, in a way that, wow, like your clients will go like, I never thought about that before. Like nobody offers this. I've never seen something like this before. And not just for the sake of being different, but it has to be more effective in solving the client's problem.
Right.
And giving them like a better experience. Maybe you're solving the problem faster in a shorter period of time. You're delivering like incomparable results for your clients.
For sure. No, I'm glad you brought up the word innovation because that was one of my questions that I had written down because I know that's something that you specialize in for sure. Like, do you have any quick maybe examples or suggestions, being that the health coaches are kind of, I don't want to say we tend to, there tends to be, especially coming out of a certification program, a cookie cutter model. And
Yeah.
sometimes we might not be able to see like some of the more elaborate ideas and possibilities just because of the way that we were trained initially. Do you have any innovation strategies that we might lean on? I know that you
Yeah.
have experience in a broad way. But,
Yeah. So not to get into the complexity of things, the
Mhm.
first thing you actually have to do when you're innovating is to empathize. So
Mm,
that's like the first step. That means you have to go and understand people, the people that are your audience, like the people you want to work with. And you want to understand them at a deep level. Like, why are they not getting the results that they want?
mhm.
And it's not about like, I don't know how to get fit. I don't know how to exercise. It's not about that. There's like all this information on YouTube and like in the internet and all that stuff. Maybe it's the right information, maybe it's not the right information, but there's stuff all over the internet that you can search so that that the how to is not always the problem, for
Mm,
example. And also the how to could be the problem. Maybe like they don't understand the right methodology. Maybe they understand only 30% of the whole thing and they go and implement, and that's why it's not working, because they don't understand the key things about what they're doing wrong. So you want to totally you want to empathize with them. You want to understand them at a deep level. You want to understand the small nuances of like what's going on for them on a daily basis. Obviously, this client or this person or this market or this audience, they have not achieved the results that they want for some sort of reason. What are those reasons? There could be hundreds of reasons. And I challenge everyone to write down at least 100 reasons of why. And those 100 reasons, there could be excuses, there could be like real, legit kind of like reasons and all that. But when you get all those reasons of why they haven't achieved what they want, then you want to go and look. Those are mostly symptoms. Then you want to go and look like, what is the root cause of all this, right? Is it a mindset problem? Is it a self-image, self-perception, identity kind of problem? For example, I always perceived that I would be someone with bad health because my parents had bad health, for example, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Or is it like a how-to kind of problem? Like, I do not know. I've researched the whole like internet world. I still don't know how to lose weight, for example. There's just so many elements. Don't just look at how to, but look at there's the mindset piece, there's the self-identity. Then there's all these like, we know about how there's like generational trauma that's passed on to us from like ancestors and things like that, right? So maybe that's another piece. So there's just so many things that go into like the question, why haven't I gotten the results that I want? So when you go and you do all that deep dive with whoever you want to work with or your audience, or maybe you go and do this with a group of 5-10 people that is closest to who you want to work with, you know, that have the characteristics, is in that market that you want to work with the most. But if you're not sure, then you can just go and deep dive and get to know people in general that maybe have a health problem that, you know, you could solve. And then you want to understand, you want to kind of dissect the whole person here, like what's going on with them. It would be similar. It would be the same thing and same process with every niche. Like, for example, if you're in the relationship, like I'm also in the relationship business. So I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Why haven't you gotten the results that you want relationship wise? So why haven't you been able to attract the person, this high value partner that you want, even when you think that you're also a high value partner? What's going on here? Then I go and I like interview, like they tell me their whole life story, and they tell me their ancestors' story and their parents' story and their past results and what happened, and you know, the 5 partners that you've been with, what went on and what was right, what was not working, and you know, what do you believe about yourself, and all those things. And then we go and we deep dive and we see all these parts of like, oh, I see now, I start to see now why you haven't been able to get the results that you want. And that's like a happy, fulfilling relationship, for example, you know. So when you're able to dissect this whole thing and understand like all the pieces that go into like solving this person's problem, then you go and look at your geniuses, and then you look at like, do they have the money to pay you? They afford this and all that, right? But the fundamental piece is like understanding them. That's like empathy. That's like empathizing with your market, with your ideal client. What are the problems that they are facing? What are the root causes of those problems? And that is like it's, as I speak about it, it is a complex, it sounds like really complex, right? But it's really getting to know people and getting to understand people. And I feel like because as a health coach, you've probably been trained in understanding like the psychology as well, right? So I think especially for coaches, it's easier to go and do this process where you empathize with the clients versus people in other totally different businesses. I feel like it's just in our nature and easier for coaches, like whatever coach, whatever niche you're in, to kind of empathize with the client and understand them. So yeah, I would recommend that would be the first step in starting this innovation process, which will eventually lead to you differentiating yourself from the rest of the market.
Got it. No, thank you for that advice. So that's awesome. So I actually promised you I'd be about 30, 40 minutes, and we were rocking and rolling, and it's a little past that time. So I think to end the show, and you did touch on it a little bit because I do think this is important as well. Why is it important to operate with a mindset of abundance when you're doing whatever you do, even if you're starting out?
Yeah. Well, because like we know that a scarcity mindset will attract more scarcity, and an abundance mindset will attract more abundance into your life. It doesn't matter whether it's money or wealth or like business or clients or love or relationships, right? It's just how the mind works. It's the law of attraction. So whatever you believe, you will look into the world on a daily basis and you will see that. So if you have an abundance mindset, which is easy to talk about and say like, yeah, just have an abundance mindset. It actually takes work, right? A lot of inner work. If you've had a scarcity mindset, or if your parents had a scarcity mindset, you grew up or you've been in situations where that was programmed into your mind, right? So it takes this inner work, but it's totally possible. But when you have this abundance mindset, you're looking out into the world and you're seeing all these opportunities and you're attracting all these opportunities into your life. And especially when we're talking about like marketing to the high end market, the affluent market, having an abundance mindset is super important. Because if you're coming from a scarcity mindset and you think people don't have money, how are you going to start earning and how are you going to start charging your clients when you believe that they don't have money? So that's why back to the point where I mentioned like, yeah, your clients have to have money to pay you. If you're marketing to a group of clients that the market that they're struggling to pay you, then that's just like an uphill battle for you, right? And then you end up not being able to help anyone. So you want to have a business that's doing well. That's how you will be able to help more and more people. So that's why it's like super important, because whatever you believe, you will attract. And yeah, especially if you're looking to differentiate yourself to be the best in the market, to be able to charge a premium fee, which ultimately we all want that. You have to have an abundance mindset. You have to see that, yeah, people actually spend a lot of money on crazy things that you don't know about. They do. Like people have a lot of money and they spend money on things that aren't even like that useful sometimes, right? Yeah. Yeah. And like, so they do have money. They do have money. So yeah, when you see that people actually have money, then you're going to sell things. You're going to go and make offers. You're going to approach people. You're going to want to you're going to want to offer what you offer in your business to people. So that's super, super important to run any business. You know, you have to have an abundance mindset.
Amen. Listen, Nida, you are fantastic. I just want to give you an opportunity to let the audience know how to take you up on your services and your offerings by providing us with your social media handles, your website, any way that we can keep up with what you're doing and contact you. So if you can do that for us in this moment in the podcast, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, well, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. I have several Instagram accounts, but you can go to Nida Leard, NIDA or Nida Leard Official. And the best way actually to, if people are interested in working with me or even reading articles or things like that, I actually have a free quiz that people can go and do, and it will give them like a free blueprint of how to differentiate their business from the rest in the market. And you can just go to nidaleard.com for that. At the bottom of the landing page, you'll find like this place where you can do the quiz. And yeah, that's basically how you can reach me.
Awesome. Appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Omar. It was fun having this conversation with you.
Oh, likewise. All right. Have a great rest of the day.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. If you did, jump over to iTunes and leave a rating and or review. It goes a long way in helping get this message out to our fellow health coaches and people in our industry. Also, if you can, jump over to my website, omarcumberbatch.com, where I give out a lot of freebies, including my 5-day sugar challenge for people who are having issues with sugar. And also for health coaches, I have the book, Hidden. It's the 6 not so obvious ways to get your clients unstuck. Have a great day.